everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be watching scary animations because it is Freaky Friday. So that means that today is all about scary animations. So I'm gonna do the same as last week. Gonna watch some from Wonsi Entertainment and Meat Canyon. These are not my stuff. This was all by these wonderful creators, and I'll leave the links down in the description box below. But if you got your drinks, you got your snacks, and you're all set to jump into this with me, then hold on tight, because here we go! Choo-choo! So the first one is called... First one is called Breakfast on a Wednesday, and this one is by Meat Canyon.
It's hard losing weight. It's an everyday struggle. You will always tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow. I'll start tomorrow.
Yep, I feel that. I understand that pain.
Change.
It's difficult, it really is.
This time I can change. I know.
Something, Joshua?
I love Frosted Flakes.
No, Tony. I don't think so.
What about your cereal? You always start the day with a bowl of cereal.
Well, not anymore. I'm gonna change, Tony.
I don't know
Change
what he's
for the
even
better.
eating.
No.
Is that supposed to be like fruit, like an orange or grapefruit?
You don't mean that here. Here, come here. Come on. You don't want to eat that fruit. You want
Yes, he does.
sweet. So yummy and delicious. Here, come here. Come on. Who's your tiger?
You are.
Oh, yes, that's right. Now, who's my little piggy, huh?
Oh!
Who's my little
This isn't scary, this is just funny.
That's right. That is,
If Tony,
that's right.
if Tony came in here more often,
Come on. They're great. There you go. There you go. Bring it up to those luscious lips.
I eat Frosted Flakes every so often.
I'm a
He doesn't come visit me, why doesn't he come visit me?
Joshua, come on, don't cry.
It's hard losing weight. It
Oh my
really is
god,
every day,
his
you know.
face.
It's okay. I can always start tomorrow.
Look at that face, it's evil. That was it? Wow. It's based off the Teletubbies, which, by the way, used to freak me out when I was little. Like, it really spooked me as a kid. Oh! Oh, how did he cry like that? Oh, that's disgusting. Ew. What is happening? Oh no. So they just took their buddy And a what? Ew. That's disgusting. Oh, so now they're getting in their suits. The music is so hard on the ears. What on earth is happening here? That is so hard on the ears. For the sun. Is the sun controlling all this? Um,
My name is Emma, and this happened to me a few years ago, back when I was in college.
okay.
What happened was that two girls were missing in my town, and they were also some of my classmates. They both had blue eyes and brown hair. So
They're
one of my
both?
classmates, who I will call James, invited me to come over to his place.
Oh,
I
wait.
didn't pers-
Blue eyes, brown hair.
Who I will call James.
We already know
invited
what's
me
gonna
come over
happen.
to his place. I didn't personally know him, but I told him sure, because I'm a nice person.
You guys, never go over to somebody's house if you don't personally know them. That's just asking for disaster to happen. Do not, under any circumstances, if you don't know the person personally, even if they're in their class, but if you don't know them on a personal level, why would you go over?
And that I would be able to come over on Saturday. To be safe, I asked my friend, who will be called Grace, to just park out James's house, and if I didn't come out in an hour, she would come in and ask where I was. This was just to give me a sense of safety, and thank God she said
Why
yes.
would you still go over
Grace
though?
is a martial artist, so it gave a large sense of safety. So Saturday came, and I went to James's house. We talked about school and whatnot until I hear a sound from the basement. I asked James what it was, and he just responded, I don't know either. So when
What do you mean you don't know?
upstairs, now was my chance to check it out. The sound. I went down into the basement. It was nice, but I saw a door with an outside lock on it by the
Never
stairs, and
go
I
into a basement, especially if you don't know
was definitely coming
what's
to
down
me.
there.
I opened the door, and what I saw still
It was just
haunts
unlocked?
me to this day. What was in there were the two girls
Missing
that had
girls.
gone missing.
That
I
was to be
immediately
expected.
recognized them. The blue eyes and brown hair, their ankles and legs were tied up, as well as their torso being tied up from below their breast to just above their stomach. One of them had a piece of duct tape on her mouth, and another had a piece of cloth that went from below her nose to just on top of her chin. I gasped and then started trying to untie them, but then felt drowsy and fell down.
Oh, see, it was something in
When
her
I
drink.
awoke, I found out there was a piece of duct tape on my mouth and that I was tied up the same way as them. At first, I tried untying one of the girls' hands, as ours had been tied in an X shape, so it would be easier to untie. However, when that failed, I remembered that Grace would come for us. So we waited for about 30 minutes until Grace would show up. When she did, we heard her asking about where I was, so we tried to scream through our gags. She heard it and asked to investigate, and we hear her coming down. She opened the door and was about to get tranquilized, but she disarmed him and knocked James unconscious. Grace untied
Oh.
us, and we called the cops. I have always thanked Grace for
Grace
saving
is the
me.
real MVP.
However, sometimes, nowadays, I ask myself what would have happened had I not asked Grace to come.
Bad things. Very bad things. Probably would have just been down in his basement the rest of the time. I've never liked that. Never go to someone's house if you don't personally know them. Never. That's just disaster waiting to strike if you do that. Please never, ever, 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 ever do that, guys. I've always never liked the idea of hitchhiking. Like, even when I was little, you'd see people hitchhiking and stuff, but you never know whose car or truck or van or whatever. You never know what kind of vehicle you're getting into. Like, you could be getting into someone's vehicle and they're very nice. Or you could be getting into someone's vehicle and they could be like a killer. You just don't know.
Many, many years ago now, years before I was even born, my dad was driving through Arizona when he spotted a guy hitchhiking at the side of the road. He said it was
I'd never
a
stop for
perfect
someone.
day, 100 degrees in the shade kind of deal, and there's this guy with no hat and no water bottle just
Yeah,
walking
but
along this
yeah,
desert road.
that's
Being
weird.
the all-around great guy that he is, my dad pulls over and offers him a ride, claiming that there was no way the dude would have made it out of the valley without getting some serious heat stroke, probably.
But that's,
The guy seems
I would just call the police. Like, I would just call the police, be like, this guy is gonna have heat stroke. Can an ambulance come down and let the paramedics and police to take care of it. Like, isn't it weird that someone's out in the desert alone? I don't know much about Arizona, but I'm just saying.
incredibly grateful. He jumps in the car and they take off down the road. My dad asks the guy where he's headed, and the guy replies, next town over, before chugging from a bottle of water my dad offered him. They commence a little small talk as they drive, and the guy tells him some common first
They don't have their
names, like
seatbelt
Tom,
on.
Dave or something. Turns out the guy had been hitchhiking all the way across the state because he wants to cross into Mexico on account of his 90-year-old abuelita who was sick.
Okay.
He wanted to see her before she passed on. The fact that he didn't have any money wasn't going to stop him either. He wanted to be at her bedside when she passed.
Okay, I
Dad
mean,
thought
that kind of
was
makes
about the
sense.
sweetest thing he'd ever heard, and the hitchhiker looked like a real hard guy too, I guess you'd say. So it was extra touching seeing how you never really expect that from him. But everyone loves their grandma, I suppose. They ended up driving together for way longer, and they worked out
Look
with
at
their
that.
grandma.
That's the look of pure evil. He's like, this guy's totally falling for it right now. He doesn't know what's coming. Like,
I suppose. They ended up driving together for way longer, and they worked out which point my dad would be farthest south using an old road map so the guy could get out as far south as possible so he wouldn't have much further to go. He gets out, and my dad wishes him luck, and then he goes driving on his merry way. Some way down the road, a cop car appears in my dad's rear view, puts on its lights, and pulls him over. Like a model citizen, my dad pulls over, hands at 10 and 2, then asks the officer what
where'd the
problem
place came out of?
The cop doesn't say anything. He just asks to see his license. He took a good long look at the license, then told my dad to get out of the car. My dad then gets out of the car, and the cop starts searching around it for a while before closing the driver's side door.
They were looking for the
and looking
guy.
at him. The cop asks him if he picked up a hitchhiker a few miles back, and my dad says yes. The cop then asks if his name was something other than Dave or Tom, some Hispanic name, and my dad says no, that it was the plain common name that he'd been given. And the cop then produces a photograph, and the guy in the picture is none other than the hitchhiker my dad had just spent the last hour or so with. When my dad says yes,
Hour or
it was
so?
the guy he just picked up. The cop told him he needed to follow him to the closest precinct to answer a few questions, because the guy wasn't some dedicated grandson headed to see his abuelita.
I think we already knew that.
Wanted for the murder of a cop, and he was fleeing the country.
Oh my god.
The cop told my dad that the guy would have killed him for his car just as soon as look at him, and that he'd probably have taken him hostage if they'd performed a traffic stop on his vehicle while Mr. Abuelita was still in the car.
Oh.
Knowing how close he'd been to danger really shook my dad up. He was
This is why I said you don't pick up hitchhikers. Unless it's like your relative or something that's trying to hitchhike for whatever reason. Then you can't. But otherwise, why? Why would you pick up someone that you don't even know? This is what happens.
only in his 20s at the time, early 20s too. Still naive and stupid brave enough to just randomly pick folks up. Says the whole thing really changed his perspective on people. And he
Well, of
was
course it would.
cautious afterwards. Glad he was too. Otherwise, I might not even be here to tell this story for him. Rest in peace, Dad. Your kind, generous, silly self is missed infinitely.
Oh, he must have just passed away, I guess.
When I was younger, about 4 or 5, I visited my grandfather in Serbia. He wasn't the brightest man, nor
When I was 4, I visited my grandmother in
I've heard stories
Cuba.
from my relatives that he smoked cigarettes as much as you'd breathe in a day. He drank rakia, a Serbian alcohol, as if it were water.
He looks
and he hid
creepy.
secrets worth killing for.
Oh, what?
As I mentioned earlier, I paid him a visit when I was little. It was my last visit to him because he passed away a year later. I
Okay.
remember he told me stories of what he'd done in his early years.
I feel like it's
He
not good
served as a
stories.
hunter and taxidermist in his 20s, back in Bosnia before he'd moved to Serbia, where he served as a cop for 10 years.
10
Then
years,
the
okay.
bombing of Serbia broke out, which resulted
Oh,
in
went to
him
the
serving
military.
as a soldier there. It was my last day staying there before I had to leave, and he requested that we go on a walk while my mother stayed at home.
Why does he
to
look
see my
so
grandmother was
creepy?
preparing dinner. I was a little rebellious at that age, and I kept on wandering off or bumping into his cane, things like that. I could tell he couldn't
Oh.
take it anymore when I saw the eerie expression on his face as he told me a gruesome story.
Why would
When
you?
I was a hunter, I took one of my nieces on a walk in the woods to shoot down an animal of her choosing. He intended to taxidermy it for her upcoming birthday. So she decided to explore the deepest part of the woods in search of a wolf. I tried warning her, but she ignored me. I decided to wait for her. She hadn't returned, and it had already
my
started
God.
to turn dark.
Why
I
wouldn't you go
screamed
after
out
her?
name, but didn't hear her
That's your
response.
niece.
So I searched and searched and searched till I came upon a stench behind some rocks.
Oh, the wolf's
I
got to her.
charged toward it only to discover something horrible. She had long been dead, with maggots feasting upon her flesh. 2 vicious eyes peered out from a near bush. A wolf unveiled itself with a huge chunk of carrion in its mouth.
Oh my gosh.
Soon enough, I realized it wasn't carrion. It couldn't be. It was too huge to be a rabbit or a fawn. I ran and ran until I was out of breath. We had come to the end of our walk, and without a word, he walked inside his house. It's been many years since I brought up anything about him, but the one day I did, I will never forget. I was clearing out my garage with my father. He was my grandfather's son, and spotted a taxidermy
Wait.
with my father. He was my grandfather's son.
Okay.
And spotted a taxidermied owl that belonged to my grandfather.
Huh.
Hey,
I've personally never really liked that stuff. Like, I mean, I don't mind it. It just freaks me out, like, when I see an animal, knowing it was, like, alive and just walking at one point, and now it's just stuffed. Like, it kind of grosses me
I
out.
remember this. This was Grandpa's taxidermy gift to us. I remember when he told me the story of how he brought his niece with him on a walk and she got
Oh my
eaten by
God.
a wolf. I thought,
I bet you the kid was not eaten by a wolf. I bet you that's just the grandfather's way of covering up his story.
nothing of it. I brushed the story off as a fable he'd used to scare me into behaving. My father looked pale. He explained that his cousin, the niece in the story, had never gone on a walk with my grandfather, but rather went missing when my grandfather visited her. It all added up to he was never looking for a specimen to taxidermy for her. He was looking for a way to get rid of her.
Why? God, not the heart at the end. What did she do for the grandfather to want to get rid of her? That's what I want to know. So he was a taxidermy. So he. Oh. Well, that's going to do it for today's Freaky Friday episode. I hope you enjoyed. There were some creepy ones. Like, mainly just things that kind of happen and that you can think that happen in real life. It's definitely spooky, though. Definitely spooky. But I do hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next Freaky Friday episode, or whatever I post next time. But I do hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the day, and thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel a lot. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye for now.